set forward for today. We're going to be looking at some of the teachings coming out of India, and we're really focused on this recognition as we keep coming back with the esoteric teaching that we're doing all of this to ourselves, right? The whole world seems to be going on out there, and we think that it needs to be fixed out there. And as we'll see when we pick up the poetry of Rabindranath Tagore, what he's going to be talking about in the late 19th and early 20th century, it would be like reading the newspaper today. And if we were to go back further in time, it would be the same thing, this lament about the state of the world and the people in it. And so it's always that case that we are repeating these cycles. And what becomes increasingly obvious if you're paying attention, you're sensitive, you're self-reflective, is that none of the means of remedying the situation has ever worked when we address it as an external event only. It's been referred to, as you probably know, as combing the mirror. You can't fix your hair by trying to comb the mirror, your reflection in the mirror. The hair is not in the mirror. Just like the problem is not in the world. The problem, as we're going to see, is not knowing ourselves, right? This is the main principle we just keep coming back to in the esoteric teaching. And it reminded me of the incompleteness theorem of Kurt Gödel. What the incompleteness theorem basically says is that you cannot come up with any mathematical, provable statement that is convincing and complete in and of itself. There's always going to be an incompleteness in anything that we state as fact from the level of language and mathematics. It's really important to get. Whenever we say something is, we're leaving things out. There's always a limitation in language. There's a selectivity in language. And so that carries through not just in geometrical, mathematical language, as Kurt Gödel was saying, but it's also in spiritual and religious language. You cannot find the solution within stated empirical facts. You can't comb the mirror. And so what Kurt Gödel's theorem also says to us is the ground of truth, and this is why it was called the incompleteness theorem, the ground of truth is beyond the constructs of mathematics and conceptuality. You cannot reach truth through positive statements or declarations about factual events or even mathematical proofs. You can never get to the ground. It will always be incomplete. And this is what A Course in Miracles is saying. You can never find truth through perception. You can never find love by being a body. Right? Being a body is you're this selected out form that's cut off from everything else, and as a result, from just that point of view, you're incomplete. You're the embodiment of the incompleteness theorem. And then you're trying to find that completeness out in the world. You're trying to find the solution to the problem. Whatever that problem is, fill in the blank, out in the world. It will never reach. You'll never find it. That's why Jesus will say the ego's motto is seek and never find. We will wander in fantasy and dream endlessly for eons. And this is what samsara is. Samsara is repetitive history, what we keep coming back to. We keep repeating these cycles again and again, and it's driving us mad. Samsara is a madhouse. Right? And so we're going to be looking at the Yoga Vashishta this morning, which is one of the great teachings on Vedanta, which is the non-dual tradition of India. And we're going to see a comical story that gets this point clearly home. Before we do any of that, let's just settle the mind. Remember why we are here. Come to a place of slowing down and focusing on the breath. And as you find this seat of meditation, what you want to feel into is the state of witnessing consciousness. It's becoming aware of awareness. Naked awareness. The immediacy of awareness. There is nothing closer than awareness. It is the ground of being, and we all share it. And as we become seated as awareness in the present moment, we recognize that from this place of clear seeing or witnessing, whatever arises within the mental field of thoughts, concepts, ideas, images, or memories are like clouds that cannot touch the clear sky of awareness. Whatever's arising within the waves of the emotional body, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, cannot touch or change the clear sky of pure awareness. And whatever is arising as bodily sensation, feelings, likewise, are phenomena that come and go, bloom and fade away, but never change the pristine and luminous ground of pure awareness. Tat tvam asi, thou art that pure awareness. And so as we embark on our study and practice this morning, let us remain within this seat or throne or lotus of pure awareness. Don't come out from it. Remain the witness, the ancient seer. And inquire in what comes up during our discussion, and see if you can undo the knots that block and cloud this awareness from your own perception. This is the practice. A practice of undoing, of clarifying, and illuminating. And so it is. So I have a few poems to share from Rabindranath. This one is called The World Today. The world today is wild with the delirium of hatred. The conflicts are cruel and unceasing in anguish. Crooked are its paths, tangled its bonds of greed. All creatures are crying for a new birth of thine, O thou of boundless life. Save them, rouse thine eternal voice of hope. Let love's lotus with its inexhaustible treasure of honey open its petals in the light. O serene, O free, in thine immeasurable mercy and goodness, wipe away all dark stains from the heart of this earth. Thou giver of immortal gifts, give us the power of renunciation and claim from us our pride. In the splendor of a new sunrise of wisdom, Let the blind gain their sight, and let life come to the souls that are dead. O serene, O free, in thine immeasurable mercy and goodness, wipe away all dark stains from the heart of this earth. Man's heart is anguished with the fever of unrest, with the poison of self-seeking, with a thirst that knows no end. Countries far and wide flaunt on their foreheads the blood-red mark of hatred. Touch them with thy right hand. Make them one in spirit. Bring harmony into their life. Bring rhythm of beauty. O serene, O free, in thine immeasurable mercy and goodness, wipe away all dark stains from the heart of this earth. And so as we end this beautiful rhapsodic poem, I can't help but think of the mathematician Kurt Gödel once again, the incompleteness theorem. Because as we listen to this poem, we're thinking of some outside force. Thine, thy, O thou. Wipe away the stains of this earth. Bring thy light so that you can heal those that are caught in hatred. As if it's something outside of us. We can't comb the mirror. And all of these religions are caught within the delusion of the incompleteness theorem. They think that their doctrines and dogmas state fact, and they are partial. And the reason why they are partial and incomplete is because they ignore the ground of being. And where is the ground of being? Here. You. The one listening is the one that needs to bring his or her light into this world. This is what's missing in the equation. The world is incomplete without you shining forth as the one. We've been hearing it for millennia. The kingdom of God is within you. The Tathagata Garbha, the seed of Buddhahood, is within you. You are Buddha nature. But when will we ever embody this? Why don't we embody this? Because we get embroiled in the hatred. We are caught in our self-seeking and our thirst. And we are angry and want blood for those who have wronged us. Right? So this is one of the reasons why when we come to a teaching like this, what is primary is that we begin to examine ourselves. We begin to look at what's showing up in our consciousness that has us disconnecting from our own truth, our own ground of being, the light that we really are. And when we realize that it's what's disconnecting us from our own truth, we realize that is the only suffering that I'm experiencing. Everything else is a shadow play. Everything else is an excuse or a device to turn my attention outward and try to fix things by combing the mirror. I'm the tyrant. I'm the king that wants to take over and control everything. Until I've dealt with the root of the problem, which is my own greed, my own foolishness, my own crassness, my own stupidity, I cannot in any way change anything in the world. When I have dealt with my own darkness, I will shine forth. And when I shine forth, I will look in the mirror, and the mirror will be shining. When I look in the mirror now, what do I see? In truth, a reflection of my own ego, a reflection of my own denial. This is what Jung called the shadow. All of these parts of the psyche that we don't want to look at and address are waiting for us out there in the world. And we call them by different names, and we have different forms for them. But all in all, it's me. Because there is only me. I'm the only awareness in town. And so are you. And so when we are out of phase or out of alignment with the ground of our being, and we're trying to be complete by showing up as these incomplete personas, We will have to have an enemy in the drama of life. And that's why the world looks the way it does. We're all shirking responsibility for being the one, and we're trying to blame somebody else out there. And the way that the world works, because it is an engine of distraction, it will give you plenty of opportunity to find the enemy you seek. And it will be so real. The nightmare can be so real, so tragic. That is samsara. That is the endless wandering and dream. Question. God, again and again, through the ages, you have sent messengers to this pitiless world. They have said, forgive everyone. They have said, love one another. Rid your hearts of evil. They are revered and remembered, yet still in these dark days, we turn them away with hollow greetings from outside the doors of our houses. Right? We don't let them in. Our doors are closed. How you doing, Jesus? Good to see you, Buddha. All right, but we're not going to open the door. We're going to stay locked behind our walls. And Rabindranath continues. And meanwhile, I see secretive hatred murdering the helpless under cover of night, and justice weeping silently and furtively at power misused. No hope of redress. I see young men working themselves into a frenzy, in agony, dashing their heads against stone to no avail. My voice is choked today. I have no music in my flute. Black, moonless night has imprisoned my world, plunged it into nightmare. And this is why, with tears in my eyes, I ask, those who have poisoned your air, those who have extinguished your light, can it be you have forgiven them? Can it be that you love them? And that's how he ends, with a question. Now, there are two types of questions. There is a closed rhetorical question, which is really a statement of your position with a question mark at the end. And it's a form of propaganda for your own point of view. You're not really asking a question. You're stating what you believe with a little bit of an up switch to your voice. But you're not looking for any answer. There's the open-minded question that truly wants to know. This is the self-inquiry that we are about here. So, can it be that you can forgive them, those that poison the air, those that work secretly behind the scenes to do things that are harming the poor and the oppressed? How can we not be outraged? If we really have eyes to see in terms of world events, if we're not getting our news from propaganda sources, what we see is chilling in terms of the human situation, utterly chilling. The advent of a surveillance state, AI, all of these things that are being furtively, secretly pushed through while we are being distracted away with nonsense. Culture war, while both sides thicken the bars over the populace. But what to do about that? Well, we can't look outside ourselves. We must go within. And the only hope is to find unity, right? Because if you really see the game is divide and conquer. So the solution to that game is to find the ground that unites us all and be that. And so this is what these teachings are designed to do. They're revolutionary because they heal your consciousness, right? They illuminate your consciousness. And then you can be the change that you want to see in the world. Now finally here. I threw away my heart. I threw away my heart in the world. You took it up. I sought for joy and gathered sorrow. You gave me sorrow, and I found joy. My heart was scattered in pieces. You picked them up in your hand and strung them in a thread of love. You let me wander from door to door to show me at last how near you are. Your love plunged me into the deep trouble. When I raised my head, I found I was at your door. So this, again, is the remedy in poetry. We threw our hearts away. We disconnected from the ground of our being. We completely fell asleep as the persona, the mask, the body identity, the self-concept. And he says this in A Course in Miracles, and it beautifully echoes Rabindranath here. He says, when you threw away your peace, which is the ground of your being, that you share with all living things, it's life itself, it's the enlightened state. When you threw that away by ignoring it, now you throw away your peace, you can only see yourself in pieces. And these pieces seem to be other, different, something that we oftentimes have to fight against, right? And declare to be enemy. And so what we're saying here is, when we give up this attempt to be the separate self, and we come to this place of wanting to know who we are, the first thing he says is, we go from trying to seek our own pleasure, which brought us only sorrow, to then turning our face towards God, which brings us sorrow at first, because it's a denial of yourself as you know yourself to be. There's a rigor to this inward journey. Giving up identification with the ego and what the ego has driven you to want and to get, right? This consuming and acquisitiveness to acquire and take, that has to go. The getting concept has to go. And that will cause an inner conflict for a while. Like we've said a few weeks ago, this is not an easy path. It's a narrow path. And few want to find it because it does require a denial of the self that you have known. But that self has brought you nothing but sorrow. And it stays completely helpless and unfulfilled in a world of troubles. And it laments these troubles. And what's interesting, and you know, this is just my geekiness coming out, there is this fascinating word play in the Hebrew Bible. The first question that was asked occurs at the beginning of Genesis in chapter 3, where Yahweh says in Hebrew, Ayecha, to Adam and Eve, where are you? And the way that that word is spelled, Aleph, Yud, Kaf, He, Ayeka, where are you, is actually a book in the Bible. It's called Lamentations, the Lamentations of Jeremiah. And when the start of the book is Ayaka, I lament. So what they're showing in this sagacious wisdom of the Hebrew Bible is God's asking, where are you? Because you're not connected to your ground of being, to the unity consciousness. And in fact, if God is this omnipotent, omnipresent being, of course he knows where they are. So the question isn't really, I can't find you, where are you? It's like when you look at somebody and they're off. It's like, where are you right now? You're not seeing reality. That's the question that was asked. And as a result of not seeing reality, Ayaka, I lament. I'm in trouble. I'm suffering. Right? And what's fascinating how we can connect this to Buddhism is that Buddha says life is dukkha, life is endlessly unsatisfactory. Can't find satisfaction here. Why? Tanha. We keep seeking for satisfaction of this little self. We are looking for our own pleasure and satisfaction. And it's incomplete because that's not who we are. You can't find satisfaction for a ghost. It will only endlessly want. That's what it does. It will only endlessly want. As Solomon says, hell is never full and man's eye is never satisfied. You'll never find what you're looking for as the incomplete self. What's Buddha's remedy? Nirodha. Stop. Stop. Get quiet. Start to listen. Come back home. Come to the ground. And nirvana literally means chill out, man. Cool down. Blow out that flame. Stop being so heated. Chill out. Let that fever of self-seeking cool down. Look at how it runs your life. Self-seeking. Even our altruism and philanthropy is self-seeking. How can it not be? It's set within the framework of an incomplete self that wants to be somebody. So everything is designed to be somebody. And even our altruism and our philanthropy go along those lines. So no matter what we do as the separate self, there will be dissatisfaction. If you heard one thing this morning, let that kind of jar you a little bit because it happens to be true. And like we just read with Rabindranath, speaking of the early 20th century, you can go back to Buddha, 500 BC. You can go back further than that to Moses. You can keep seeing this is an endlessly repeating cycle. You'll never find what you're looking for within the dream of separation. Wake up. That's Buddha. Buddha is, I'm awake. I realize now, this wasn't me. That's not me. And I'm no longer grasping for this self to get what it thinks it needs. That's a fever dream. It's insanity. And it's going to torment me, right? Klesha. It's going to torment me until I can let go of it. And then when I come back to the ground, there's not only peace, shalom, but the word shalom, where we get shalom, is there's wholeness. I begin to see that I am the only one. If I attack anyone, I'm attacking myself. But the same goes for if I desire anything out there, it's because I've declared myself incomplete first. There's nothing to desire out there because I have everything already. I'm shalom. I'm complete. But I won't know that as long as I am identified as the separate self. When I am like that, I am lost in imagination. This is where we're going next, my friends. Lost in imagination. Lost in a nightmare of consciousness. Right? These teachings are so friggin' potent. When you begin to look, you realize it's being given to you on a silver platter. And as we're going to see with A Course in Miracles, as long as we identify as that separate self, that beautiful platter of liberation teaching smells like shit. We don't want it. Don't want it. We want what we want. That's why he's saying perception or dream is a temper tantrum. It's a temper tantrum. We want what we want. We want it our way. And as long as we think we can get it, we don't want liberation. Liberation is odious to the one that thinks they can fix and solve the problem of their life or their political regime or whatever it may be. as a world event, an exterior result. Can't do it. You'll drive yourself mad. So the Yoga Vashishta. The surest sign of a man of the highest wisdom or woman is that he is unattracted by the pleasures of the world. For in him, even the subtle tendencies have ceased. He's no longer swayed by sense pleasure. He is not motivated by fame. And then he says this. Now, the Yoga Vashishta was written maybe 800 years ago, but it carries on an even more ancient tradition. And in the sacred teachings of India, a lot of these quantum physicists, like Schrodinger and Planck and all these guys, they actually Oppenheimer, they went back to the ancient teachings of India because they saw that what they were discovering in their quantum models was being shown to them in metaphor and poetry in these ancient teachings of India. So here we have the multiverse coming up. He says, "O Rama, countless have been the universes that have come into being and then have been dissolved. In fact, even the countless universe that exist at this moment are impossible to conceive of. All this can be immediately realized in one's own heart. For these universes are the creation of the desires that arise in the heart, like castles built in the air. The living being conjures up this world in his heart, and while he is alive, he strengthens this illusion. When he passes away, he conjures up the world beyond and experiences it. Thus there arise worlds within worlds, just as there are layers within layers in a plantain stem. Neither the world of matter nor the modes of creation are truly real. They're incomplete. Yet the living and the dead think and feel they are real. Ignorance of this truth keeps up the appearance." So when he's saying all of these worlds arise within our heart, this world that's arising in your heart right now, right? Your consciousness. This is, again, what Kurt Gödel's theorem of incompleteness had said, is it leaves out consciousness, the ground of truth. And all of these hard-nosed scientists are trying to figure out the hard problem of consciousness. And they can't. It's mysterious. It's untouchable. It's unreachable. You can't figure out what consciousness is, where it comes from, its nature, through a scientific method. It's the wrong instrument. It's like the eye trying to see itself. You can't. But what you can do, as Lao Tzu said, is look inside your own heart. Come to settle down. Get quiet. And you'll find that you can reach the ground of being if you're willing to let go of the obstacles, the identification as the separate self and its desire. If peace is your agenda, you'll find the ground of your being. And when you find the ground of your being, you will stop conjuring worlds. You will actually be as Rabindranath was saying, you'll be the extension of the Supreme in this world. This is who Vashishta is. We're going to see in a second. Vashishta is that part of the cosmic mind that is on this reconciliation program. He's coded as this thought form that comes into the dream to heal the dream. That's Vashishta's role. That's the role of every great master or teacher. So what he's doing is undoing the construct, undoing the simulation, undoing the illusion that we're conjuring, each and every one of us. So it's saying here that we, as this element of consciousness, he calls it the living soul or the jiva, it came to dwell in the body. The jiva thought, I am atomic in nature, like a little spark. And so it became atomic in nature. It's the power of your imagination or consciousness. Yet it only apparently became so on account of its imagination, which was false. Even as one may dream that he is dead and that he has another body, this jiva, which in truth had an extremely subtle body of pure consciousness, now begins to identify itself with grossness, and so becomes gross. Your physical body. Even as a mountain is reflected in a mirror and is seen as if it were in the mirror, the jiva reflects the external objects and activities and soon begins to think that they are all within itself and that he is the doer of the actions and the experiencer of the experiences. Thus abides in the body the jiva, which has the extremely subtle body of consciousness, imagining various external physical experiences and various internal psychological experiences, thus resting in the unreal, which, however, appears to be real. Did you ever see that Tom Cruise movie, Vanilla Sky? No? Yeah, it's unsettling. So, spoiler alert. So this movie basically is getting at, he's a super wealthy guy, gets into a car accident, and the movie plays on as if he recovered from his car accident. You get to the end of the movie, and he's in an elevator, and there's a guy in the elevator with him, if I'm remembering this correctly. And he says to Tom Cruise, I'm tech support. You're actually in a coma, and you're having this lucid experience that seems to place you here. But if you will trust what I'm saying to you, you'll realize that this is all being conjured in your imagination. And he's, just like when you're in a dream, he's in a restaurant, everybody's eating, and then he realizes that this is actually true. He starts to trust, and he begins to get these inclinations and intuitions. And eventually it takes him to this place where he's at the top of the roof. I'm not doing it justice here. But he follows tech support, and tech support brings him to the top of a skyscraper. And he basically lets Tom Cruise know that in order to wake up from the coma, you got to take this leap. And right before he leaps, he sees the love of his life that actually died in the car wreck. He thought he lost her. So she's there, and she basically assures him that this was all true. And he takes this leap off the building, and he wakes up. And that's exactly what these teachings are saying. You're not here, and this isn't you. I'm tech support. And we're trying to get you to realize that instead of staying lost in the dream, you can awaken from the dream. And what gives the joy to your life now is to know you're out of the matrix. You're out of the prison of your mind. And you can then show up joyfully, having your desires finally fulfilled. You realize there was nothing to get here. This was all a fever dream. Now you can help liberate others, heal others, bring others the good news that they too are not here. So he says, thus in a body, the jiva becomes confused. But all this is mere imagination or thought. Even now, nothing has ever been created. The pure infinite space alone exists. Cosmic consciousness alone exists now and ever. In it are no worlds, no created beings. That consciousness, reflected in itself, appears to be creation, even as an unreal nightmare produces real results. This world seems to give rise to a sense of reality in a state of ignorance. When true wisdom arises, this unreality vanishes. So here's the story. It's called The Great Forest. And you might have heard this before. I've shared this years ago. Now remember, Vashishta is the voice of liberation. And as he'll say in this story, he's that presence of clear self-inquiry. The one who's listening and watching right now and who is awake. That is the dimension of yourself symbolized by the sage Vashishta. Now he's going to tell a story about us and what our life is really like. Let's see if it makes sense. The pure mind is free from latent tendencies, right? These habit patterns and appetites that drive you. It's free from that, the pure mind. And therefore, it attains self-knowledge. Since the entire universe is within the mind, the notions of bondage and liberation are also within it. This is very important, right? You can't comb the mirror. You can't find what you're looking for out there because heaven and hell are within you. Time and eternity are within your consciousness. Liberation or bondage are yours. You choose. But it's always, you're choosing what to generate in your consciousness. And what these teachings hopefully do is get you clear enough to realize, why am I hurting myself? Why do I keep choosing bondage? I won't do that anymore. The stove is hot. So here's a legend, he tells Rama. There was a great forest, so large that millions of square miles were like the space within an atom. In it, there was just one person who had 1,000 arms and limbs. He was forever restless, dukkha, completely lost and seeking. He had a mace in his hand with which he beat himself, and afraid of the beating, he ran away in panic. He fell into a dark well. He came out of it again, beat himself, and again ran away in panic. This time into a forest. He came out of it, again beat himself, and again ran away in panic. This time into a banana grove. Though there was no other being to fear, he wept and cried aloud. He kept running as before, beating himself as before. Now remember the start of the story, he says, this is a story about mind. And then he said, there's only one mind. But it's insane. It's self-inflicting. It's self-punishing. And it appears in pieces and fragments, thousands of arms, but all beating itself. Vashishta continues, I witnessed all this intuitively, and with the power of my will, I restrained him for a moment, and I asked him, who are you? But he was sorely distressed and called me his enemy. He wept aloud and then laughed aloud. Then he began to abandon his body limb by limb. Immediately after this, I saw another person running like the first one, beating himself, weeping and wailing. When I similarly restrained him, he began to abuse me and ran away intent on his own way of life. Like this, I came across several persons. Some listened to my words and abandoned their previous way of life and became enlightened. Some others ignored me or even held me in contempt. Some others even refused to come out of the blind well or the dense forest. So what we have here is a picture of life. There's one mind beating itself, hurting itself, lost in a delusion, lost in a nightmare. And the only way out is really the question, who are you? For many, when you hear that question, the feeling is get lost, right? That was one of the ways of reacting to the voice of the liberator. I don't want anything to do with you. If you can't tell me how to live my dream the way I want it, according to my temper tantrum, and give me the relief and satisfaction that I want on my terms, I don't care about what you're saying here. It doesn't make any sense anyway, because I'm so locked in to my fever dream. I want it my way, and I won't give that up, no matter how much I'm inflicting pain. Because what's clever about this is the pain seems to be coming from out there. Somebody else is doing it to me. I'm not doing that to me. And that's the way the game goes on. Samsara, ever repeating cycles of self-punishment. When will we stop this self-attack? And that brings us to the final leg, my friends. This is the course. He says, you are a ray of light in God's mind, protected and sustained by his being. You are one with him because you are part of him. Whenever you attack, you are denying yourself. You are specifically teaching yourself that you are not what you are. Right? Vanilla sky, lost in the dream. You are specifically teaching yourself that you are not what you are. Your denial of reality precludes acceptance of God's gift because you have accepted something else in its place. The one that you walked in as, probably the one you're listening as, and the one that you're going to stand up and walk out as. That's what you accepted in place of who you are. The idol, the self-concept. If you understand that the misuse of defenses always constitutes an attack on truth, and truth is God, you will realize why this is always fearful. If you further recognize that you are part of God, you will understand why it is that you always attack yourself first. And what he's saying there is, as long as I identify as the little self, the separate me in the body, I'm denying the truth of who I am as the one self. That's an attack on myself. It's a denial of truth. I'm not the idol. I'm the reality. And if I insist on being an idol and I'm having a temper tantrum about it, the anxiety and the fever of trying to find completion outside of myself will drive me further into the nightmare. It's a self-attack. And the remedy, if it isn't going home to your true self, will only make matters worse. It's like taking drugs, self-medicating. They just cause more problems as you keep doing it. Whatever you get addicted to just adds to the suffering. So this is the statement here. We don't have much time left. All attack is self-attack. It cannot be anything else. arising from your own decision not to be what you are. It is an attack on your identification. Attack is thus the way in which your identification is lost. Because when you attack, you must have forgotten what you are. Your reality cannot attack. And if your reality is God's, when you attack, you are not remembering him. This is not because he is gone, but because you are actively willing not to remember him. Ayeka, where are you? Where are you? Right? Vashishta could have said that instead of saying, what are you? To the madman beating himself up. Where are you? Because you're not home. You're not in safety. You're not in peace. You're not in joy. You're not in happiness. You're not in love. Where are you? And why are you remaining there? Why do you insist on staying there? Come home. Because all you're going to get from Ayeka unanswered is Ayaka. I'm in torment. Blue bag's going to go around, my friends. Any thoughts, comments? Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, a dream. Well, since we have a couple of minutes, I could finish out that last little bit. So he says, when we are actively willing not to remember who we are. He says, if you realize the complete havoc this makes of your peace of mind, you could not make such an insane decision. You make it only because you still believe that it can get you something you want. It's the only reason why we keep going. We think we're going to get something we want. But we're not at peace. It follows then that you want something other than peace of mind, and you have not considered what it must be. Yet the logical outcome of your decision is perfectly clear if you look at it. You don't have peace of mind, and you don't want that. Well, what do you want? That's what's driving you. So this is a great place to start your inquiry this morning as you get up and go away from here. If I don't want peace of mind, well, what's really driving my life? What's ultimately my concern here? I don't want peace because I keep rejecting it. Well, then what's in place of that? And I leave that as an open question, not a rhetorical one. All right, we complete here? Let's bless the offering. Thank you, Marianne. And we just bless the offering and charge it with the intention that it be a symbol within this dream of separation of the voice or the image or the thought of going home. And so it is. Amen. All right, let's seal the deal, my friends. Resting within the center of the heart, finding that spark of jiva, this living being that is self-aware and self-creating. And when we come to know ourselves, we will know our Lord. And it is here that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Have a beautiful afternoon, my friends. Thank you for being here.